eternos agradecimentos por tudo que fez pelo futebol, né, por todas as portas abertas que deixou para todos nós que viemos depois. Vida longa ao rei. Parabéns.
There is no argument. Pele is football's number one, the king. That might sound strange to you, but with each minute of this video, it will become clearer. The embodiment of being number one. We can all agree Pele was first. He was the first footballer to marvel the world in unison. In a time where there was no internet, no YouTube, no satellite TV, Pele was the face splashed on the front cover of newspapers. He acted in movies and even turned up in Hollywood. Heck, Pele could even sing.
Se eu pudesse mudar o mundo, veja o que eu faria.
Pele was the first footballer to transcend the game. He was known all over the world, saying to him, "Don't cry, Dad. I'll win the World Cup for you." 14 years later, in Sweden, he became the youngest footballer to feature in a World Cup. He then became the youngest to assist, the youngest to score, the youngest to claim a hat-trick, and the youngest to score twice in the final. Can you believe it? Pele wasn't even 18 years old and had already won the World Cup, scoring 6 goals in 4 games. When the final whistle blew, he collapsed on the pitch. He had already kept his promise to his dad, and he still had a whole career ahead of him. On the subject of his career, there's something you need to understand. Yes, Pele played most of his career for Brazilian side Santos, never making the move to Europe. It's not like the European giants didn't want to bring in Pele. In fact, a plan was put in motion to stop this from happening as he was declared as a national treasure. After the 1958 success, the eyes of the footballing world were fixed on Pele. Real Madrid, Juventus, Inter, and Manchester United, they were all fighting to get him. In order to prevent a move abroad, the Brazilian president at the time declared him a national treasure. Buying him would be a crime. The fact that he never officially played in Europe is often a source of criticism from modern football pundits. We've heard it before. He played in a farmers' league. That line isn't just false, it's an absolute insult too. Even if we could argue for hours about the level of South American football, or how crucial many South American players are to teams in Europe, football was completely different back then. International transfers weren't the norm. Even more so, when a South American footballer was finally convinced to move abroad, this usually meant being nationalized so they would not count as foreigners. This would then make them eligible for the national team, as was the case for legends like Di Stefano and Puskás in Spain or Sibéry with Italy. This also means that there was no talent exodus. Only the best of the best played in each continent. Let's imagine that for a moment. A scenario in which intercontinental transfers don't occur. Neymar, Messi, Di Maria, Luis Suarez, all playing in the Copa Libertadores? It would be incredible. So when the Copa Libertadores was played in Pele's time, this was the case. The cup was as hard fought as the European Cup, and Pele Santos ruled the continent. They won 6 Brazilian championships, 10 Paulistas championships, and 2 Copa Libertadores. As they'd already conquered South America, they went and proved themselves to the world. Pele took Santos on tour to win 2 Intercontinental Cups against the AC Milan of Cesar Maldini, Rivera, and Trapattoni, and the Benfica side of Eusebio and Santano. Santos and Pele's fame grew so big, they would extend their international tour and take their footballing show on the road. As everyone wanted to see Pele play, Santos cashed in on the experience. In 1959, the Brazilian team played 99 matches in South and Central America. Then moving on to Bulgaria, Belgium, the Netherlands, Italy, Germany, Switzerland, Spain, you name it, they played there. "We were in demand," wrote Pele in his autobiography. The suits were very keen to cash in. By 1962, Santos' circus made it all the way to England, the home of the beautiful game, and Pele put on his show to sold-out stadiums across the land. The Guardian's correspondent at the time, Eric Todd, summed up perfectly the admiration commanded by Pele. When one considers the number of superlatives that are squandered on some inside forwards in this country, the futility of trying to find new ones to describe Pele becomes all the more obvious. Once, when playing against Sheffield Wednesday, rival midfielder Tommy Craig spent the final 10 minutes chasing Pele up and down the field. He wasn't trying to get the ball from him, he was trying to get his shirt. "I told the referee to give me a signal when he was about to blow for time, so I could stand beside the great man," Craig told the Daily Record. "When the final whistle came, I grabbed Pele around the waist until he had parted with the jersey." Other footballers were desperate to get a souvenir from him at a time when swapping shirts wasn't a thing. Pelé established himself as an international star, a sporting hero that transcended the sport, a man people would pay to see. Pelé and Santos' world tour includes a story like no other: the day they stopped a war. Nigeria was in the middle of a violent civil war when Pelé landed there to play a friendly against the national team. Both factions agreed to a ceasefire so the match could take place and Nigerians could celebrate in awe of the king of football. His Highness received his title by conquering the world with Brazil, not once or twice, but 3 times. He won the World Cup in 1958 as a teenager and was part of the squad in 1962, though he was injured for most of the tournament. Mexico 1970 would be his last dance, and it would be a fitting farewell for Pelé as the Brazilian team would play some of the most wonderful football ever seen. It would also prove to be a seminal moment in football history, as Mexico 1970 was the first World Cup to be broadcasted internationally and in color. Finally, the entire world could see Pelé in action. Having done it and won it all, scoring over 1,000 goals, Pelé retired. But not for long. As we said, he was a pioneer. He was also the first superstar to take his talent to the USA. It was former Secretary of State Henry Kissinger who convinced him to come out of retirement and join the New York Cosmos. Pelé was fundamental in football and becoming relevant in North America. And the story sums up the legend. Pelé was a footballer who acted as an ambassador of the game. His Royal Eminence, who would sit at the same table as popes, secretaries of state, and kings. He was friends with Nelson Mandela, and Queen Elizabeth knighted him, even though he's not of British descent. Perhaps his greatest title is the simplest one. Coming from a nation that continues to produce legend after legend, Pelé will always be the best Brazilian footballer of all time. And whenever you see a record broken by Cristiano Ronaldo and Messi, or in the future by Haaland and Mbappe, it's Pelé's initial record they are breaking. We'll finish on some words by the king himself. Like Cristiano Ronaldo said, when Pelé talks, the world listens.
I tease the players now. They didn't love the team, they didn't love the game today, they love the money because they go to the Real Madrid or go to Santos or go to Arsenal or go to Manchester. They are presented, they say, I love Manchester. Tomorrow they go to Madrid, they say, I love Madrid, I love Madrid. They love it who pay a little bit more, you know. That is danger for the football.